to Thru the Ringer. I'm your host, Tate Frazier. Welcome back to the show. We are in studio, but joining us from a remote location. He's always here on the show, and we're happy to have him back. Cousin Sal. Sal, good to see you, man. How are you?
All right, I'll go in studio. Just wait like 40 minutes. I'll be in studio. All right, just shoot the breeze. Talk about Rory, whatever you want. No, it's great to see you too, Tate.
It's always great. You had a great time at Augusta National. That's why we're giving you some time to decompress. You need to be back home. But let's start there. We're going to play my favorite game, and we're going to do some over-under reactions. And, of course, we're going to start with Augusta National. So I'll say to you, Sal, you saw it in person. Rory McIlroy's Masters win, a.k.a. the Rory Coaster, was the most exciting sports moment since the race to 10 in Las Vegas. Over or under reaction, your thoughts?
Well, nothing will ever be more exciting than handing out $10 bills to drunken tourists at the Kimmel Comedy Club in Vegas, because UCLA got to 10 before Utah State did. But Rory's was an amazing journey. I was there. I wasn't there. We left Friday to come home, but I'll tell everybody that I was there for it. All right. Because really, who's going to check it years from now? I have some kind of badge that says I was on the premises. But anyway, really tanks the first hole, fights back, shot of a lifetime on 15, shot of a lifetime on 17, and then bogeys 18, and then just to come back and win the playoff hole. I think he would have swallowed a bucket of golf balls if he had lost that.
Yeah, there was a lot of shots of a lifetime, also the worst shots of a lifetime as well mixed in there. But Rory comes away with the win, and you also have some takes that came away from Augusta National. So I'll say to you now, the $1.50 pimento cheese sandwich that everyone raves about is overrated. Over or under reaction? What say you, Sal?
All right, I don't want to crap on the sandwich that everybody loves, really, but I'm going to say underreaction. I'm going to do it. I mean, it's fine. The price is great, $1.50. You're not going to beat that. But, you know, you're getting like the 15th best flavor of cheese on 2 slices of Wonder Bread. So how excited am I supposed to get? It's like bragging about the Diet Coke at Dodger Stadium. It's like, all right, yeah, it's fine. It's good. I'm going to rank your top 50 cheeses.
Oh,
Tate.
Right now,
Pimento's in there?
Yeah, I'll do this for the 40 minutes as you drive into the studio.
Okay, good.
And by the time you get here, we'll be locked in. But I think you make a good point, right? I think it's the price point that we all love, and what you get for that price point is what we get excited about. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's just cheese and Wonder Bread slapped together. I think the mix of the barbecue sandwich as well has been like a nice little mix. But yeah, you're upset.
People say that. Like, you got to mix everything together. Like, you don't do that in any other sporting event, right? Like, no, if you don't have the garlic fries with the sushi at Angel Stadium, you're missing out.
No more mixing and matching is what Sal's saying, and I think that's a good point. But a great time at Augusta National, great Masters. And like you said, the Mandela effect in the future, you're going to feel like you were there on Sunday watching Rory make that run. So it's all going to be good.
I caught it. I caught the putt.
You were there. You caught it. Next up, let's talk about a guy who's not going to be throwing passes to guys in Tennessee and catching his passes. Former Tennessee Vols quarterback Nico, a.k.a. I'm a Leavin', has the most ironic name in sports, Sal. Over or under reaction? This is the best meme I've seen.
This is an underreaction. I love it. I feel like I'm one of the few people that cares about that. The guy's name was Nico I am a Leva. How did they not see this coming? I mean, I guess he could have been a little more forthright if his name was Nico I am a Leva on April 9th.
Yes.
Like if it would have pinpointed it a little more. But I think this is great. There's been a few of these. Kenny Pickett, known to throw interceptions. The Pitt kicker, college kicker, had a name. Blewett was his name.
Yeah, that's a good
He was
one.
wide left a little bit. I just love this one, though. Yeah, I'm saying underreaction.
We've had Brickus in basketball playing for Villanova this year. It's sometimes the last name. We've had Passmore as a last name as well. So sometimes the name is on the nose, and right there it hits again.
How about Wayne the Great One Gretzky? How did his parents know to name him the Great One?
It's a great middle name. They had to have known something, Sal. So
incredible foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think that was a great call. Next up, let's talk about this guy, Aaron Rodgers, Sal. I say should sign with the New Orleans Saints. Over or under reaction?
I'm going to say underreaction. I think, you know, the Saints have a choice here. You draft Shedeur Sanders, right? And then you have 4+ years of getting notes from Dion, which can't be fun. Or you have the hysteria of Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, backup or otherwise, for 1 year. But I think it's a good landing spot for Rodgers. This is still a division that could probably be won with 9 victories or 8 victories even. So makes it easier for him if he's got the nod to start out there. Plus the mix of ayahuasca and po' boy sandwiches in the Big Easy is to die for.
Yeah, and Coach Prime's one note: no laptops. That's what he always says. No laptops.
That's right.
Every single time. That's what Coach Prime says. Speaking of Coach Prime, Sal, we say there will never be a less deserving honor than Colorado retiring Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter's jersey numbers. Over or under reaction? A lot of people have some thoughts on this.
Easy take.
What are your thoughts? This is just a statement. I'm not saying this.
These guys went 2 games over 500 in the last couple. Like, what more do you want from them? What more does a mortal man need to do? Cordell Stewart and Eric Bieniemy must want to go on a murder spree now, right? Like, they did great things for that Colorado team. They did not get their numbers retired. But honestly, I would retire Hunter's number. Like, you're probably not going to see that again where a guy plays 2 ways so effectively. Shedeur threw 2 interceptions in the Alamo Bowl. That's how we're going to repay him for this? No, I think it's an underreaction.
Yeah, and also people forget Colorado has won a national championship in football. This is not the local team, the upstart David versus Goliath. This is a team that has, again, won a championship before, but hang the banners, and congratulations to those guys. Next up, Sal, the Clippers are a bigger threat than the Lakers in the Western Conference. Over or underreaction? A lot of Clippers chatter out here in Los Angeles.
Everybody loves the Clippers out here. I think it's an overreaction, as does FanDuel. Clippers are 12-1 odds to take the West. The Lakers are 6-1, so they're about twice as good, the Lakers. This is a giant swing also. The Clippers are now favored over the Nuggets. When this line came out, the Nuggets were like a -140. Now the Clips are like -120, but I'm not buying it. I think Jokic is going to be a tough out, especially with home court. And by the way, the T-Wolves could knock off the Lakers, too, so they may go as far as the other with both bowing out early, watching from Tijuana or wherever teams go.
Yeah, Cancun, whatever it is, like you said. But there's a lot of conversation about Zubac going up against Jokic. A lot of people talking about Zoo and how much they're a fan of him. I'm sure that Jokic is hearing all that conversation, so I think it's good news for the Nuggets, if anybody. So I think that's a good call. Next up, Sal, we're going to go to the Eastern Conference. The Knicks-Pistons playoff series will ultimately decide which city's pizza is superior. Over or under reaction. A lot of people talking about this going into the series. It's all about the pizza.
It's always all about the pizza. I'm going to say underreaction only because I'm confident in the Knicks winning this. I wouldn't say it if these teams swapped rosters here. And I'm much more confident that John's Obliquers is better than anything Detroit-style pizza.
What is Detroit-style? It's like Jets pizza, right? It's like the brick pizza. It's like the square pizza, right? That's Detroit-style?
Well, let's put it this way. I think Little Caesars has mastered it. So where do we go from there?
Well, they got cheese bread. That's the good news.
So that's it. But I like the timing of Brunson's return. He was not, run into the ground down the stretch by Tibbs, so that's going to help. They'll have trouble against the Celtics if that's where they go next. But I think they get by Detroit. I'm going to say Knicks in 5 plus 240. It's much more fun off the tongue. Knicks in 6, but I actually think they win 4-1.
Yeah, and it's also, a lot of people are kind of hot on the Pistons. This is, quote-unquote, a bad matchup. You got Duren, who's very physical, that might give Town some issues. Cade Cunningham, 6'7", obviously going to give Brunson some issues. But I think you're right, Sal. The Knicks are a better team. We're just trying to give, the young team, the upstart team, some fun. So shout out to Detroit. But again, 1 or 2 wins feels like the right number there. And let's call up the Riverboat captain. We got a fun question this week for you, Sal. Bryson DeChambeau, in case you missed it, said that Rory would not speak to him at all during the 4th round and final round of the Masters. So we have a simple question. Which is the biggest snub of 2025? We have the odds right here. We got Rory and Bryson at the favorites, 3-1. We got Donald Trump and Cheryl Hines at 5-1. We got the NCAA tournament and West Virginia at 7-1. And we got the Oscars and Demi Moore at 10-1. Obviously, a lot of good candidates there. A lot of odds right there close with each other. We got the field at even odds. What say you, Sal? Biggest snub so far of 2025?
Oh, man, these are all such good ones. You want to say West Virginia, the way, do you still lose sleep over the miscarriage of justice?
Every single night, Sal. I just get nightmares of the governor and the senator and everybody threatening legal action. Right.
Very sad. I'm going to go field. I don't even think Rory Bryson is the biggest Rory snub. I'm going to go Rory and my agent, James Baby Doll Dixon. We were there for the practice round, and Baby Doll's like, watch. I know him from the Bears Club, baby. I see him all the time. He's a good guy. If I yell Baby Doll, he will turn and come over and talk to me. So he tees off. I think it was like the 14th practice hole.
Right.
And just gets within. I backed up. We all backed up. Let Baby have his space. And he's like, Rory, Baby Doll. And with that, didn't miss a beat. Just kept on straight, like beeline, right to the next hole. It was beautiful, and it didn't stop Baby from doing that to at least 3 to 5 more golfers throughout the day. But that to me was the greatest snub, and made me think that Rory's going to win.
I think that's amazing. It also is hilarious to think that someone like of Rory's ilk would hear baby doll, someone screaming baby doll at him, and he would immediately just turn head and, immediately lock in.
I got to drop everything, go over and talk to this maniac.
This guy yelling baby doll.
I don't get burnt by a cigarette.
Also yelling Wake Forest and Demon Deacons and other things. So shout out to baby doll. I think that's the only answer. I think that's the right answer at even odds. I wasn't even there, but your description of it is so perfect. So I'm going to take your word for it.
He loves me. He can't stop talking to me at the Bears Club, Rory. He's a good guy. One of the better guys.
Really good guy. But ultimately, the biggest snub of 2025, we're going to pour one out for Baby Doll. And now I turn it over to you, Sal. You're going to set some lines for us this week.
Let's do it. All right. Okay. Speaking of Baby Doll, we had this thing. It was a big argument we had. So I said, I got this off the internet. I didn't make it up. But I said, if you were to play the Masters, but start every hole on the green, but the furthest point on the green from the pin, would you win, Tate Frazier? Would you, I'm asking you, get over or under 72.5, which is basically par for a round?
Yeah, I think, one, that's a great question. Shout out to you and just shout out to the internet for whoever came up with that. I will say that you think it would be easy and you say to yourself, oh man, I can at least get 4 on every hole. I play a lot of golf in my life, Sal. Just the idea that maybe you would start out good and maybe you would be on the leaderboard. As soon as you looked up and saw some of the names on the leaderboard, I think your knees would buckle a little bit. And even if you started on the green, you would end up shooting 75, 76. Maybe even worse. So anyone that says anything otherwise, they're not watching this tournament because the touch is too deft to be able to actually do this. So I'm going to go over. I think I would embarrass myself.
Baby Doll thought he would actually set a course record, like shoot like 59 or 58. I don't know what he would do, like something insane. Like he's a lunatic. I was like, Cam Young is 3-putting this. What are you nuts?
Also one of his close personal friends. So
That's right. Wake Forest, baby. All right, I got another one here.
Please.
John Cena. I need to fire Baby Doll. I really do. John Cena will remain a heel for over under 1.5 years. He's entering WrestleMania this weekend as a heel. Does he keep it up for another WrestleMania at least?
I think he keeps it up for another one. We also like the villains now. It does feel like we live in an era where, everybody likes the bad guys. The bad guys have turned into the good guys. That's how heel we've gone. We're completely in the 180 zone here. So, like, being the heel is basically being the hero nowadays. I think John Cena just likes people talking about him. So, I'm going to go over here, Sal. But you know more than I do about this.
No, that's probably right. Yeah, Elon will probably turn heel and babyface like 4 times in the next 18 months. So I think you're right. Perfect. Okay, over under 51.5 NBA playoff games that will be decided by 10 points or more. Tate, I famously bet the -9.5s both sides. And for instance, tonight, take the Bulls and the Heat both at -9.5. You'll get plus 300. Now, obviously, one of them is going to lose, but eventually in the next couple months, you're going to be a winner. What do you think? Over under 51.5.
I think over. I think your strategy is a great strategy, and there's so many swings in these games. And, a 20-point lead in the NBA is absolutely nothing. And like you said, the numbers have proven and they've bared exactly what you said, which is they match up in the end. So you start out, you're obviously a little bit frustrated, but as the journey aggregates along, we get the win in the end. So I'm gonna side with you here, Sal. I'm gonna say
college
over.
Basketball is just more competitive, Tate.
Right.
I had to watch that last game with Simmons. I was like, please, somebody score in the next 14 minutes.
Right. We need nobody could get a shot off in the last possession. I'm like, this is my nightmare. This is
just let the ball go.
This is not good. But the NBA playoffs is the best time. It takes center stage, Sal. I know you're fired up for it. So we'll be locked in. We'll be talking about it here on Through the Ringer. We appreciate you setting the line as always. Stay tuned. Stay right there. Don't drive into the studio because
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after the break. We're going to do some line look aheads and subtract to the futures with Cousin Sal. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Through the Ringer. We're here with Cousin Sal, and we have the best of times ahead here. We got, obviously, the NBA playoffs right around the corner. But before we get to the playoffs, Sal, we got to get to the play-in tournament. And I just wanted to get your temperature check. How fired up are you for the play-in tournament?
Well, listen, we had a couple games last night. We're doing this again. I feel like we have enough playoff teams. Now we have to get 2 more in or
Right.
something? Come on, let's
Right.
start this thing already.
Yeah, and like the play-in, obviously, is a little bit of an appetizer, a little bit of a teaser. Like you said, Tuesday night we got the first play-in games. Now Wednesday night we have some games ahead. Let's do a line look ahead here, and let's start with the Bulls versus the Heat. Bulls -1 in this game, total 219.5. But we're looking at player props, and there's a player prop on the board that you like, Sal. What is it?
Yeah, as far as the spread goes, I don't really love it. The Bulls are home, favored by only 1, even though they beat the Heat all 3 times this year. So I'm staying away. Little herky-jerky there. Kobe White, though.
My guy.
You ever heard of him before?
Oh, yeah, I love
played
him.
for UNC Charlotte or something, somewhere around there. Over
Close.
8.5 rebounds and assists, -110. He's had over 8.5. He's had 9 or more rebounds and assists. 9 straight home games, average 11.2 over that stretch. Cash that. The guy brought you so much joy, Tate. This is the least you could do. He's going to bring me some joy tonight.
Yeah, he's the best. He set the high school scoring record in North Carolina, Sal. That was a nice, fun fact.
I bet on
for you.
that, too. Yeah, I remember I made money.
Yeah, that was a huge one when he broke that. Shout out to Wilson, North Carolina, where he did that. I used to play that school back in the day.
Oh.
But I got another guy from North Carolina that I like in this game for a player prop. That's Bam Adebayo, the star of the Miami Heat, also a North Carolina guy. And I'm going to take him first basket in this game. This is a fun FanDuel prop. If you go to FanDuel, you can check out some of these props. But first basket in the game, +490. I don't know, Sal. I close my eyes, I visualize it, and I see, Miami winning the tip, Bam getting a nice little short roll, and just, a little floater, a little runner to open this game up, gets the score, and you can cash in +490.
Yeah, I don't see how that loses. I'm trying to visualize now how it could go another way.
I don't think it could go any
Coming up
other
short.
way.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I could see it going. So you can cash that in. Let's do another line look ahead here. Let's flip to the Western Conference. This is the other play-in game. We got the Sacramento Kings taking on the much maligned Dallas Mavericks. Of course, Kings -4.5 in this game. Total 216. A player prop that you like in this one, Sal. What are you looking at?
Well, first of all, shout out to Domantas Sabonis for winning the rebound title futures bet for me. Cash.
Good job.
I thought he wasn't going to meet the minimum. They were sitting him out towards the end and putting him back in. Tough guy, did it. +210 payout. I'm a rich man. I don't love this game either. Sacramento is favored. But couldn't you see Dallas turning the table to one more screw in this inexplicable season and being around at least for the Friday game? But whatever. Player prop for me. Kings guard Keon Ellis under 12.5 points/rebounds. He's gone under 13 for this combo in 7 of his last 9. He averages about 9.5 over that stretch. Grab that -128. That's Ellis under 12.5 points and rebounds.
I like that call, even though I like Keon Ellis's game. I like the under there, -128. You can get that. I'm going to stick with the first basket here, and I'm going to take your guy, Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah.
First basket in this game, +550. Same sort of deal. Kings win the tip. Sabonis gets down the floor, hits a little runner, hits a little floater, gets things going. Nice little basket to get the game into a flow. And again, if you want to cash that in, you can get it at +550, Sal. So
you gotta parlay those two. I think you can get about 30-1 for Bam and Sabonis to score first in their games.
Right. I love that. FanDuel, go right now. Go get a parlay on the board, and it makes the play-in games a little bit more fascinating, a little bit more interesting, because as we know, Sal, this is not the playoffs. Not quite the playoffs, but, almost there intensity-wise.
It's the 4 play-in, right? I don't know. Something like that.
That's what they call it. That's what we're all calling it. Let's do something a little bit more fun. College basketball. Let's track to the future. We're looking at 2026 NCAA champion. Now, a lot of these teams have a lot of roster decisions still to be made. We got some portal, combat ahead as everybody's trying to figure this out. But again, we have odds to win the 2026 title. And Sal, you're looking at the board. Who do you like on the board?
Yeah, I don't understand why all these people are talking about NBA and not college basketball right now. It really baffles me. But I am going to, like you said, there's still a lot of NIL stuff. There's still a lot of portal stuff. This is sort of like putting a blindfold on and throwing casino chips on the roulette table. But I am going to go with Alabama at 20-1 to win the whole thing. They lose scoring guards Mark Sears and Grant Nelson, but they grabbed the 7-foot center from Bucknell already from the portal. Aiden Holloway and Latrell Wrightsell are back. I don't know, Tate. I'm just reading names, but 20-1 seems high. And what we know would be a competitive Nate Oates' squad, right?
Yeah, Nate Oates, like you said, you're kind of betting on the coach at that point to be able to assemble a roster. Preston Murphy, his assistant coach, has done a really good job in the portal, and 20-1's good odds. Auburn, if you're into an SEC team, obviously another team that has a lot of talent coming back as well. So I think Alabama or Auburn, either one of those teams is a good bet because they're going to be able to find the talent. I'm going to go back to the Pitino well. I did it this season. I think they got a really bad draw in the tournament. They also got some questionable calls that did not go their way. They also had a very strange showing from R.J. Lewis. So all that considered, I think they're going to find talent in the portal. I think my guy Ian Jackson's going to end up at St. John's.
Oh.
So I'm going to take the Johnnies plus 1,800 to win the NCAA championship. Rick Pitino does not have that many years left, even though he feels like a vampire. So he's got to win now, Sal, and I think next year might be the year. The first year he figured out the offense. Last year he figured out the defense. I think next year he meshes it together.
And the third year is special teams? Is that how it works? I don't know.
That's how it goes. That's the Belichick model,
Okay.
all three different phases. You know, we got to check those boxes. So I like those bets. Nate Oates, Rick Pitino. You can have some fun with that. Let's do a more present-day game. Let's do a line look ahead. MLB Wednesday play of the day. What do you got for us, Sal?
All right, I'm going to go Blue Jays over Braves. I was going to lay the 1.5, but it's actually the Braves who are laying the 1.5 because they have Kreider on the hill. But you know, the Blue Jays just come at you with the arms. Ed Gausman on Tuesday, Chris Bassett today. 3 excellent starts against the Orioles, the Red Sox, and my Mets last Saturday. Shut him down. He has a .98 ERA, still dealing at 36. Take the Jays plus 116 against the Braves, who are 29th in runs scored. They're really struggling early on.
I like it. Blue Jays plus 116. You can take that on the board. And shout out to everybody that's locked in on MLB on Wednesdays. Let's do another fun future here, a line look ahead. Which team will draft Shedeur Sanders? We talked about that a little bit earlier, Sal. But who do you like on the board to end up taking Shedeur?
Well, you know, I don't think it's worth taking what did we say the Saints were plus 120, 130? I think Shedeur could be a type of guy that falls and falls and falls, you know. But not that I'm following my own advice here because I'm taking the Giants at plus 330. I don't know. I just don't know. I think, you know, just because he gets his number retired in Boulder doesn't mean the NFL has to be in love with him. It might be worth it to take the Raiders at 20-1. Whoever knows with them. But I'm going to take the Giants plus 330. They may be pot committed. They sent every personnel member who's ever worked on the team to stare at him multiple times just in the last week. Joe Shane, the GM's got to make a splash here. By the way, is make a splash a good thing? Making a splash is usually a bad, right? You don't want to make a splash in someone. You get yelled at in the pool, but in the public pool. But anyway, Joe Shane, Giants plus 330.
I think there's going to be a lot of public shaming at the public pool with this Giants crew. And Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are probably trying to make a decision for their future, but that does not mean the Mara family who owns the team is making a decision for their future. So I think Shedeur Sanders is definitely in play, and it feels like an ownership decision. So I like that at plus 330. I'm going to go with the Browns. Like you said, I think Shedeur is going to fall. And I think as he's falling, the Browns will look at their assets and say, we got Travis Hunter at 2. Maybe we can trade back into the middle of the first round. I know McShay was talking about this as well. So I think the Browns end up going back, trading back into the first round, taking Shedeur Sanders, putting those two guys together, and maybe the whole Browns front office goes to the jersey retirement ceremony. We have a nice little moment.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
I could see,
Colorado, that'd be nice.
The Haslam's talking to Dion and be like, hey, we have absolutely no money. Do you mind if your son plays for free for us for the first 4 years? We'll figure it out.
We'll come to the ceremony, and you know, we'll have some fun. So that would be good. I like those two options. But again, like you said, Sal, there's probably something where, you know, something boring happens and we all go, of course that happens. So we'll see. Last one, line look ahead. Position of the Carolina Panthers' first drafted player. Who do you like, Sal? And shout out to FanDuel for having these odds for my Panthers.
They have them for every team. It's great.
Yeah.
And it seems to be between edge rusher plus 125 and linebacker plus 150. There's talk about them trading up, maybe taking McMillan from Arizona, the receiver, but that would make them too exciting. You know your team's not going to be exciting. Also, your defense was ranked dead last in points and yards allowed, and that's in the NFC South. That's pathetic, Tate. So I think they're going to go. I'm going to say linebacker here. I'll go for the slightly more money here, plus 150. Jihad Campbell, the linebacker for Alabama, makes sense. He goes in that 12 to 19 range. But I think you're saying edge, right? I mean, it makes just as much sense.
Yeah, I'm going with the favorite, but like you said, I would love if like a Carter situation where maybe the Giants take a swing, Abdul Carter isn't liked by some of the 4, 5, 6 range, and he falls down to 8. That would be a dream scenario. But they need someone on the defensive side of the football to at least give people the idea that they care about defense and that they want to be good at defense. And this is a program with Cam Newton back in, a decade ago at this point, where defense with Luke Kuechly was Thomas Davis, all those guys was a big part of the identity of the team. So let's start with the edge rusher, Sal. Julius
Good
Peppers
edge option for you, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. By the way, I think Georgia's had like 10 players named Jalen Walker in the last half decade or something. But he went to high school near Charlotte. They're talking about him, homegrown talent, plus money winner. So if you want that, maybe I could work.
I love that. Plus 125, also get a hometown kid, and also some Julius Peppers comps in there. So we love to see that. Again, you can get that at plus money, so that's good. Sal, where can we find all your amazing work? And then we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your week and finally get some rest.
Against All Odds, the podcast, the worldwide famous podcast with the D3 is going to be here on the Ringer Podcast Network, and Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend, Friday on FanDuel TV and the Ringer.
Of course. You're the best, Sal. We appreciate you coming on the show as always. And stay tuned. Sal's going to go hang out, take a break, but we're going to be back right on the other side of the break with Bryan Curtis. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. As promised before the break, we've got the Ringer's very own and the Press Box's very own, a friend of this program, Bryan Curtis, back on the show. Bryan, great to see you, man. How you holding up after a Masters weekend? I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Hello, friend. I guess I could say, what a Masters weekend, huh? That was a Sunday to remember. I think it was particularly memorable because we know what to do with great performance. We know what to do with all-time choke job.
Yes.
But what if you're winning as badly as you possibly can?
Right.
I mean, that was just a horrendous and strange way to watch someone get the career Grand Slam. I just cannot imagine anything else quite like that.
It was a saga, to say the least. It was a journey that felt like it was a career encapsulated in a round. Rory McIlroy, this journey at Augusta National, this was the classic. He can't do it. Even he said afterwards, I came to a point in my career where I was like, I'm not sure I can even get this done. He doesn't get it done in regulation. We watch him on the last hole kind of battle his own demons. He goes to a playoff. I'm looking at the sharps. They're saying he's still the favorite in the playoff. Human emotion says probably not. Then he has an incredible hole where he birdies and makes the putt, and then just the moment, right, where he collapses, and like how Nance handled it, how they handled it on the broadcast, it did feel like this perfect encapsulation of why we love the theater of the Masters. Like from the broadcasting standpoint, like what stood out to you? And then obviously we couldn't ask for a better story with Rory.
I think two images. One, he hits the putt, and he's down on the ground just shaking. Right? Like, we don't see that kind of emotion all the time, even when players
authentic emotion
are happy.
Right.
But really, to me, it was the next few minutes because he's walking back to the score is 10. And he has what you could only describe as cry face,
right.
where it looks like you've either have been crying or you're about to cry or you're somewhere right in the middle of those two things.
Right.
And he's just like looking like this. And I'm like, when do you see, forget professional athletes, a public person with that kind of face? Just locked in that just strange emotional region of and it was so authentic and it was so cool because you're like, man, he's so happy, so relieved he didn't just blow it in front of all of America and the world right now.
And we've seen like the Greg Norman version of this, right? Like a lot of people, even for me, like I was younger when that happened, but still you see those images and you've seen kind of the shots that change around, right? And then you've seen the shots that Rory had in this round, both the bad that we saw at 13 with the wedge shot, both the amazing that we saw at 15 with his second shot, obviously 18 with his second shot as
the
well.
Bad again.
Right, the bad again, the 18 the first time. Like there was just so many swings, and I think that was also the storyline where like it just felt like every hole was a two-shot swing, right? Early on, it was like this momentum factor. Like as far as the whiplash from the broadcasting standpoint, like I thought Trevor Immelman did a really good job. I thought Nance did a really good job. But as far as like Vern Lundquist, you pointed this out. Like, how much did we miss having someone like Vern, like on the 16th hole, where we could kind of capture it? It felt like we were missing maybe a little bit of the extra ingredient that takes it over the top. But it still was an incredible tournament.
That sense of the moment, that drama,
that gravitas, right?
Yeah, Rory's approach on 16, you're like, you really miss that voice that had been lowered by 1 million cigarettes. And I've talked to Vern about this.
Right.
One time I said, did your voice get all low and dramatic like that because of smoking? He goes, yes, it did.
It's actually attacked, you know what I mean, for some of these guys. Like, I knew Gene Honda, who was an old guy that, does the Maui Invitational, but it's like that kind of burn in your voice. It has a certain tenderness that we all like.
It's amazing, right? And, I thought the whole CBS broadcast, you make a really good point, really woke up on 13 when Rory hit in the water. I mean, it was almost like the Undertaker sit up,
Right.
And Trevor Immelman, who got a little lost to me over the day, all of a sudden got very, very critical of Rory. Because they're like, I can't believe he just did that.
And a guy who's been there, a guy who we've seen kind of handle those moments. And like every single time you get to the back nine with one of these guys who has a big lead, especially at Augusta, there is sort of this gripping tightness that comes over the crowd. It comes over everybody. We cut to the leaderboard when Rory makes a double bogey and you get the gas from the crowd where they're like, oh my goodness, right? There's reaction in real time. So that adds to the whole moment too, where it's like the people learn in real time the result. And so like you can make a double bogey, you have to internalize that on your own and have your own, oh my God. And then you get the secondary, oh my God. How unique is that to the Masters?
Yeah, watching them change the scoreboard every time.
Oh my gosh.
I just can't think of another recent sporting event featuring an all-time great like Rory, where you just didn't know what was going to happen on every shot. Right? Just imagine a basketball game where you didn't know if LeBron was going to make a three-pointer or if the ball was going to be in the 18th row. I mean, that's basically what we had. Patrick Mahomes was going to throw a touchdown or he was going to throw the ball backwards.
Right.
I mean, that is almost what we got with Rory, and that just gave it this crazy, strange feel.
And it was really, just fascinating to witness, and obviously the end result is the end result, so it changes the whole conversation if it goes a different way.
Oh, yeah.
We can only imagine what the conversation would be, just so to see a human being like Rory kind of go through that own mental turmoil and then end up on the good side of it. I was nice to see kind of the entire crowd embrace him and enjoy this moment with him and almost savor this moment, because it has been a long time coming. Just so like the Rory post, like when he did his like presser to the crowd, it almost felt like he didn't even have to say anything, right? Like it was already, the performance said it all, right? It was just the action that said it.
He could have just smiled and got the same reaction. I mean, first of all, the pairing with Bryson DeChambeau.
Yes.
I mean, that got us off on the pro-Rory side of the ledger.
Right.
Heard Dottie Pepper say that. Well, it's like, yeah, it's coming through on the broadcast. We could tell.
Dottie did a great job, by the way.
She did. She was really good.
She was locked in, right?
But we were like, yeah, we can tell who they're rooting for. And even Justin Rose, that's closer, perhaps, right?
What a gracious second, place finish from Justin Rose, by the way. Obviously, they have their own personal friendship, but you really couldn't ask for, like, if you're a young kid watching golf, to kind of, we call this the gentleman's game and everything, and sometimes you roll your eyes to these things, but, like, the way that Justin Rose reacted to him winning and celebrated his win, I mean, I don't think you can find anything like that in sports elsewhere, to be honest.
Completely agree. And I thought it was, one of those things where his psychology was almost as interesting as Rory's. We understand Rory's, but what was Rose's? Was it kind of like found money? Like, here I am, I'm warming up, I may never get back out there. Oh, wait, I am.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I got one hole match play, essentially, to win the Masters. Let's do it. And, that's like, on one hand, it's agonizingly close, but on the other hand, you never really expect to be out there. It's almost like Faldo, I think one of his Masters he kind of fell into, right? That was
the Norman one, right? I mean, where he's in
just this, like, oh, I won, okay.
And Faldo almost, like, if you go back and watch that, like, he looks almost more upset than Norman, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably the craziest feeling ever to win the Masters and feel that way,
and
right?
Imagine if Rose wins. Imagine if Rose birdies the playoff hole instead of McIlroy. Imagine how he feels for his friend. Of course he's happy, right? Of course you're going to enjoy the savor the moment, but man, that would have been some complicated psychology.
Absolutely, and that's why, like, a lot of times in life we don't always get kind of the best case scenario. And again, you don't have rooting interest, but in that moment, it felt like, because of the human psychology of it all, no matter who you were rooting for, you kind of felt like, okay, I hope Roy figures this out. And obviously, he does in the end. And King Griffey Jr., this was another subplot. King Griffey Jr. actually was filming, shooting this. He does like photography work now. So he shot the image of Rory collapsing that has been everywhere. So like, what a strange kind of like King Griffey Jr. getting this all-time sports image.
That was so mind-blowing to me.
Last thing I want to hit here, Jim Nantz, obviously We were talking about this off air. Jim Nantz has this ability to kind of bottle up Augusta National and talk about it in a way that is so reverential to the past, so like tethered to what it is in reality and able to kind of just reset where you are. He says he's going to retire after the 2036 Masters. Do you think this is going to be like a talking point every single Masters up until 2036, or like why would you give that number out? Like what are your thoughts on that? It feels like a little bit different than most retirement dates that we see set.
Well, he's always wanted to do 50 at least, and I think when that number was far into the future, it really didn't matter because, like, oh wow, 50.
Sounded
it's like,
good.
Yeah,
right?
It's like I want to hit 100 home runs in a season. It's like, oh,
it's
sounds
like marriage,
great,
right? When you get married, everyone's like, you got to get to that 50th anniversary,
yeah.
right? And if you get there, you're like, we did it, right?
But as he's actually crept closer, which is itself incredible, then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, Jim Nantz only has this many more Masters. Like he's gonna have to leave after that. I mean, It's funny because I was thinking, like, what announcer do we associate with a single sporting event more than Nantz and the Masters? And the second place finisher might have been Nantz with the NCAA tournament,
right?
Honestly, before he left and stepped aside for Iron Eagle. And I just think he just has. I mean, you heard him get choked up a little bit when he was doing the narration after Rory won. There was that little thing in his voice, and he's talked about this before, like that he's cried during tournaments. He is one. I think of all the announcers, especially the big time announcers, he is the one that is, the emotions are closest to the surface because he really does feel these things. He's not playing around. Like this is Jim Nantz's genuine feelings about what he's seeing in front of him.
And a sport that he played and obviously played at Houston in college, so it's something that's near and dear to his heart. So it does feel like you're with like your relative in their home as they tell you the story of this golf tournament. It has a very folksy feel to it. So Jim Nantz, obviously very special, and this Masters, I mean, this is an all-time Masters. I mean, we obviously love rankings here at The Ringer, but like, as far as trying to wipe recency bias away, this does feel like a Masters that we will remember just because of the Grand Slam implications and the fact that, like, there's not going to be many roller coasters like what we saw with Rory McIlroy.
No, and to have that one Pantheon level Masters, you really do have to have somebody like Rory win it. It's just, I mean,
Tiger in 2019.
No offense to Danny Willett,
right.
like that's not going to be it. That's just not really, unless Danny Willett goes off to be Tiger, then that's just not going to be it. So yeah, 2019 absolutely, and then Rory completing the Grand Slam, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Great Masters. We had Bill Simmons, boots on the ground, Cousin Sal. We had a whole Ringer team out there.
We had
right?
Scott Van Pelt taking photos.
I know.
He was the Ken Griffey of the Ringer's social media channels.
I just hope that King Griffey got some shots of them on the ground, you know what I mean? I think Bill needs to do some digging, go dig that up. I'm sure Sal will figure it out. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some NFL draft and some NBA playoff storylines with Bryan Curtis. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. We're here with the Press Box's very own Bryan Curtis, and we got the NFL Draft coming up next week. Have you heard about this? There's been a lot of conversation about the NFL Draft. Just the big picture kind of bird's eye view of coverage of the NFL Draft. I mean, this is big time stuff now, and like how fun has it been and how interesting has it been seeing like kind of the growth of the coverage of the draft? It's just as big as the games now at this point.
It truly is, and I've said this on my podcast before, but back in the dark ages, I had to get my mom's credit card and call an answering machine that had Mel Kiper's voice on it, read the credit card number into it to get a draft guide.
And people ask why he has staying power. You know what
yes.
I mean?
And as far as I know, it was Mel's own answering machine. It wasn't even a business office. I have no idea. But that's what you had to do. And now not only is draft coverage everywhere, including here at The Ringer, but it's the entry point into the industry. Like if you're a young sports writer, what are you doing? You're crushing tape. You're looking at these prospects because you feel you can get in on that.
Right.
And your opinion about that is as legitimate as anybody else's. It doesn't matter if you're in a locker room, doesn't matter if you're covering college football week to week on the ground, you can become a draft analyst too. So it's a pretty amazing time to be a consumer of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you crunch the tape, there's a lot of people that are interested and people that are willing to crunch the tape. And like you said, it's a gateway into the game, and you form your own opinions, you form your own thoughts, sort of your own kind of rules to the game, your own standards, and you can figure out a way to actually make a draft board. And we have big boards, mock drafts, everything in between, everywhere.
Stack. That's what I've heard it's called, a stack.
You got a stack. Let's talk about the stack of players because we do have a number one pick that is consensus. After that, it is a little bit of up in the air situation. But Cam Ward, former Wazoo quarterback, transfers to Miami, has a great year last year. He is a surefire number one pick. The Tennessee Titans have stamped that down. That that is fascinating in the sense that like there is all chaos behind him, but like Cam Ward as the number 1 pick, that sort of checks out at this point, and like the coverage, it almost feels like we don't even talk about him because it's such a surefire thing.
Yeah, as soon as the Titans started making those noises, you really didn't hear much about it anymore. And to me, this is one of those things. Like, I'm not Todd McShay, but you and I watch a ton of college football. And if you watch Cam Ward play last year with a team in Miami that did not have a defense,
right?
So it felt like he had to score on every single drive or they were going to lose.
Or else,
this was literally the case against Syracuse late in the season. He feels like number 1 pick to me. He really does. And we can talk about this. We can get into measurables and all this other stuff. And I'm not discounting any of that. But eye test, college football fan, Cam Ward feels like a 1-1 to me all the way.
And it felt like he was the best quarterback. I mean, even if you watched him at Wazoo, my girlfriend was a Wazoo Coug, so I watched a lot of him at Washington State. I mean, it passes the eye test, like you said. So Cam Ward as the number 1 pick. From there was the fascination with who's going to go number 2. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. They seem to be like the 2 guys that are in consideration there. I know Abdul Carter has Rosenhaus. Rosenhaus says we are not meeting with anyone outside of the top 4, so he's a surefire top 4 guy. Travis Hunter going to Cleveland. That feels like a PR win, and he does feel like the best player on the board, right?
Yes, and it's always amusing to me that every Browns pick is viewed through the lens of the Browns, the Brownsness of it all. Like quarterback, right? Just
very special,
an absolute graveyard for NFL prospects for decades now, decades and decades.
We have the jersey with all the names.
Whether they're drafted, whether they're traded for, it isn't happening there. So now, like Travis Hunter, let's get him because we need so many things, and this will make people happy. And this is part of what this pick is based on.
We also will sell jerseys, right?
We'll sell jerseys. Like it'll be fun. It'll be cool. I mean, what other franchise do you hear that about? Let's do this because it will make our otherwise miserable fans happy.
Maybe the Giants,
right?
right?
Okay, we'll throw the Giants in.
They're veering into that territory, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the question for the Giants then at 3. You know, Abdul Carter, as you say, makes a lot of sense. He's probably the best player on the board, but it's the Giants. They desperately need a quarterback. Let's have some broken down veterans and sign them all this offseason is not going to work long term. So is that where Shedeur Sanders happens? Even after all the Shedeur is falling, 25 picks, 30 picks, he's not going to the draft. Is that correct? He's not actually going to be there in person.
He's doing his own thing, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like that's another fascinating one to me. They really pass on Shedeur Sanders, and that's where this eye test comes in again. It's like, do you guys watch Shedeur Sanders play college football? Are we really going to pass? Are we really going to do the free fall here? I don't know, man. I watched that guy play a ton of football. He always looked really, really good quarterback to me. I surrender on intangibles and the bad meetings he allegedly had at the combine.
Yeah, we're eye test guys. We're just saying we watched him play football, and the guy can make a lot of throws that look like pro throws.
Yeah, right? I watched Quinn Ewers play football, and notice I'm not saying those things about him right now.
Right.
At least at that point in the draft. And I'd say the same thing about Jackson Dart. It's like, man, I watch those guys too.
And if you are the Giants, there is some sort of like identity to like an edge rusher. Obviously, you have the LT of it all. I mean, a Strahan is more of a modern version. We've seen whenever they've won a championship with Eli, it was really the edge rush that got them those championships with a little bit of sprinkle of Eli magic, right? So like the DNA of the Giants is on that D line. You have Abdul Carter sitting there that we all agree is the best edge rusher. So it does feel like a glove that fits, so to speak, for the Giants. But then, like you're saying, there's the tantalizing PR angle of Shedeur did wear the Giants cleats in his bowl game, when he warmed up. Shedeur definitely wants to be in the New York market. You need someone that wants to be in the New York market, right? So there's a lot of things that check out on both sides. So like that feels like the first story of the draft. Like, what do the Giants do at 3?
I completely agree. I also love that Abdul Carter's greatness. Now, he was awesome, and he was awesome in the playoff even with a bump shoulder. So I'm not discounting him at all, but I feel like the wheels were greased because Micah Parsons, who is from Penn State, came in and just wrecked shop in the NFL.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where, like, because we saw Micah Parsons, by the way, a lot of Cowboy fans really disappointed when the Cowboys drafted him, billed as a middle linebacker. If you remember when the Cowboys drafted him, all of a sudden he's like a generational defensive end and edge rusher.
Right.
But it's so funny to me when you just show people this thing. Of course, there's no reason. They're not like brothers, there's no reason Abdul Carter is going to necessarily be that good. But if you give people a model, they're like, oh, yeah, that's the guy. Let's do it.
And the number helps, you know what I mean? Like when you see the same number and he's wearing Penn State, not really any differentiating factors to their uniforms in general. And you see him drop back in coverage just like Micah Parsons, and you fall in love with the storyline. So it is fascinating. I do think that's going to be a big point. Obviously, Coach Prime's going to have his own. camera and, kind of
what?
visual.
He's doing content?
Right. Well, it's going to be on Tubi or wherever it is, and he's going to be locked in. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The NFL draft, we're going to have coverage here at The Ringer. Todd McShay, we got the Ringer fantasy football guys that turn into the Ringer draft guys. They knock it out of the park as well. So a lot of coverage there. You're going to be talking about the coverage of the draft as well.
Yeah, that's going to be on the Criterion Collection channel, actually, where we got bumped from Tubi.
We're in the closet with Bryan Curtis, and he's pulling out the tapes of certain guys.
That's all we could do.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Abdul Carter, you pull out the tape, you're like, watch this.
We were on the Game Show Network last year, so it's a bit of a bump up for us.
Hey, we're moving up. FanDuel TV, we're moving in the right direction. Let's talk NIL, because college football is very fascinating. We have this Nico mess that's happening in Tennessee. I think mess is the right way to describe it.
Nico, and his surname is what again, Tate?
I'm a leaving is what they're calling it now.
By the way, no one is ever going to say the real name again.
Never.
Because that guy became memed and it was like, oh my gosh.
It's too good. It's too good. It's too on the nose. The number was 4 million, allegedly. That is what we've been thrown out. But regardless, we have guys who are on the team who will be the starting quarterback who are saying, this deal's not good enough for me. I'm going to go test the waters in the portal. That is a new age. That is a new era. Like, is this the moment where things kind of get slapped back to normalcy, or is this sort of like a things to come in the future?
I think things to come in the future, because if you look at the guy who broke the Nico story, Pete Nakos over at On3, he was the one reporting during the playoff that Quinn Ewers is being offered $7 million a year to go play for another team next year and not go into the NFL draft. $7 million. So that's a totally another tier. And I really felt with my alma mater and with almost everybody that this year of the portal was less about signing guys out of the portal than going back to your roster and having everybody go, hey, time to renegotiate. And that happened with almost every, living, breathing football player on a playoff team this year. They all did it, right? Because they're all like, hey, we've got all this agency. We're free agents every single year as college football stands right now. Now, it's not as dramatic as what's happening with Nico. It's not that much money, but that was a lot that had to be delicately managed.
Let's do some checks and balances. Last thing before we let you go. Stephen A. Smith, this is just a fascinating storyline. I don't know if you've seen this.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
is he running for president?
I watched First Take, and he said that the powers that be have asked him to consider it. Is that what it means, and is that a real thing, or is this something that's just good TV at this point?
I think it's good TV. I think Stephen A. understands that it's good for the brand. But what I would say is that all the other people who are in his position, who are actual politicians, the Gretchen Whitmers, the Pete Buttigieg's, the Josh Shapiros, they also understand that people thinking you might run for president is excellent for business.
Yes.
And excellent for your brand. If you have a book, come out with it now.
Right.
If you're giving speeches,
people want to get in.
Give them now, right? I mean, Gretchen Whitmer might have a little fumble in the Oval Office.
But you write the audacity of hope, and then people start buying into the idea of hope. Last thing, Brian, before we let you go, Arch Manning, this is the year. Heisman odds are out. You got the good PR.
Is he running for president
too?
I
think he might be running for president one day. We have the odds, or the 2023 class. He's the only guy that's been loyal and stayed at his school. So a lot of good buzz, a lot of good PR. How do we feel about UT this year?
Yeah, Arch probably came in with a little more financial backing than some other kids playing college football. I feel really good. I think Texas needs to do a little bit of work at receiver. They're going to have 2 receivers go pretty high in this draft, including Matthew Golden, probably goes in the first round.
He's the number 1 guy on the board, according to our guy McShay.
So they could be better at quarterback, but worse at receiver this year. So transfer portal. Yeah. Anybody out there making a plea, just like they do on the message boards? We need the money. Got to get some receivers. Let's go.
Start ponying up the bill. That's how they do it now. Bryan Curtis, where can we find all your work? And then we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your day.
Press Box Monday and Thursday. Got Chris Ryan coming up next week. Very, very excited to have him on the podcast.
That's going to be great. Bryan, you're the best. We appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Tate.
All right, there you have it for another edition of Thru the Ringer. Thanks to Cousin Sal, as always, for coming on the show. And thanks to the Press Box's very own Bryan Curtis for coming on the show. Always good to have that duo here on Thru the Ringer. We appreciate you tuning in to the show, and we will see you next week.